Is this all right? A wee bit nervous, actually. I've never actually been interviewed this long on camera before. These mics all right, because I had problems with mine. Do you want to test them? 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. I thought my Hollywood career would kick off somewhere a bit more special in my garage. I was born in 1977 in Belfast, Northern Ireland. My parents christened me Mark Paul because they were religious. My friends, well, my army mates call me Paddy. I'll let you work that one out. Yeah, I grew up just on the outskirts of North Belfast. We lived just outside. The Troubles were at their height, sort of in the late 70s into 80s. There wasn't an awful lot to do because a lot of like normal stuff that kids would have been doing in England or the rest of the UK, we didn't have. You just didn't really do an awful lot. There wasn't a lot of investment. Like I say, my parents were really religious. They were Methodist, and I was made to go to this Methodist church until I was, I think I was 16 when they finally gave up. I hated it. I really hated it. It was so old-fashioned. You could hear like the hellfire and brimstone being screamed down from the pulpit, and you know, it was like an emotional roller coaster for about an hour every Sunday morning. You'd have like, you're damned, you're going to hell, and do this, and then at the very end it'd be like, friends, the only way to save yourself is to repent now. And you're thinking like even as a kid, you know, you're thinking, what have I done wrong here? Why am I having to suffer all this? And my mum, I don't know if they were religious growing up, but she came from a family, I think it was like 13 or 14 brothers or sisters, and I can see what's happened. There's just not been enough. There's been too many in her family for there to be love and affection. It was like basically you get fed and out, you know, and that sort of was the way that we found it. It was, yeah, we didn't want for anything, my sister or I. We always had clean clothes and food and things, but things that we didn't seem to get were like hugs or kisses. I mean, I can't even remember my parents ever saying they loved me. I know they did, but it was, you know, you never talked about feelings. If things upset you, you just kept them to yourself. And I can see that's really affected me, like actually in later life, because it's, you know, I found it really awkward talking about feelings and maybe opening up to partners and things, and consequently you get accused of being really distant or cold or emotionless or things like that. And I'm not. It's just that I'm just not used to it. And this led on to a lot of problems you see at school, right? You know what kids are like at school. If you know, especially non-uniform days or stuff like that, if you don't have the latest stuff, you just get ridiculed or bullied, and that's what it was like. I was never popular at school. I was never that good at sport. I was average at lessons and things, but I was never cool enough to be with the cool kids, and it was tough. It actually really was tough, because you know, as a kid you just want to be accepted, and I think probably going through that, it sort of shaped me into who I am today. I am a loner. I've always been a loner. Where other kids went out sort of with their pals and their friends, I didn't have any, so I went out and done my own thing. So, I mean, we had this old disused reservoir that was just up the road from us. I spent like most of my childhood up there, you know, making shelters in the trees. We used to go up, light a fire, you know, nick a couple of potatoes from the big sack of potatoes that was kept in the shed, and go up, light a fire and cook the potatoes in the fire. When to first get into motorcycles, I think all kids are fascinated by motorcycles, aren't they? So, as I said, my mum had this massive family. There was like 13 brothers and sisters, or something. I don't even know if there's 13 or 14. I can't remember now. With such like a distant relationship, but I do remember like they were brother-in-laws of hers, so they had married into the family. Nobody visited really. Nobody went anywhere. You know, the odd time you'd see family, maybe at weddings or funerals or things like that. But I do remember growing up, a couple of uncles who did used to visit, and they used to come on motorcycles. So one would have come maybe every few weeks with my aunt on the back and see him, and they came out, stayed half an hour, had a cup of tea, and you know, give you 20p or whatever it was in those days, so you could buy sweets, and then they went. And it's only now in later life, they didn't come to see us, they just wanted to ride their motorcycles. So they probably done like a round robin of all the family just to ride their motorcycles. Yeah, but they were like, they struck me as really cool uncles, yeah. Some dads would speak fondly of his Triumph Tiger Cubs, and I think he had BSA as well. And then one day it was Christmas. I remember we'd been talking about motorbikes for a while, and for Christmas, I think, oh God, I can't remember, was it 17 maybe, I can't remember. I went into the garage, and he bought a new, it was a Yamaha XV125, like a little Virago, little cruiser. And I remember looking at this thing and thinking, wow. And he said he bought it primarily for himself because he wanted to learn on. He'd never actually got his bike test, but he also wanted, you know, or he said if I wanted, I could learn on it. Of course, I knew nothing about riding bikes, and this bike sat there for, must have been a month. And then one day I decided I'm just going to go for it. And so went out, and I was crawling along the road, jumping between gears. I thought I was doing 100, and I looked down, I was doing 20. And I was absolutely terrified, you know, like hadn't a clue what I was doing. I was going around corners like, But I do remember, as I was going along, making an absolute idiot of myself, this guy on a sports bike came past, and as he came past, he slowed right down and he waved and gave me the thumbs up, because he knew I hadn't got a clue what he was doing. He gave me the thumbs up, and he didn't like sort of rev off, and he just gradually pulled away, and that stuck with me. And I thought, hang on, that's a guy there. He remembers what it was like to learn, and it, like, as someone who had never been a part of anything because I've been too much of the oddball, you know, from the religious family that could never, it sat me. And then 5 minutes later, two bikes came towards me, two guys on massive, I don't know, fire blades or sports bikes or whatever, and they both waved, nodded, you know, and I was thinking, here I am, right, and I've never had, you know, people just ignored me and avoided me all my life, and within the space of 5 minutes, 3 strangers had actually acknowledged me, you know, and that really stuck with me. So I'm, you know, and that was it from that moment. I just fell in love with motorcycles. You could do your test on a 125. Once you passed it, you could ride up to a 600 for 2 years, or you got it restricted. No one ever did. People used to pass their test, go and buy the biggest bike they could, and then just tell the insurance it was restricted. I mean, how are they ever going to find out unless they take the engine apart? I went from riding the 125 Yamaha up to an 1100 Yamaha, so the same bike but with a much bigger engine. It was an old bike. I mean, it must have been 10, 15 years old, but it hadn't moved for a long time, so it was it needed a bit of work doing to it. We, my dad and I, we done it up together. We serviced it together. I remember it was a nightmare to service because it had twin air boxes on it for some reason. So you had to buy 2 new air filters and twin carbs, which I'd never worked on carbs before, but they needed balancing. And then the actual exhaust pipes, they had rotted through at the heads. So we ended up buying I remember for my birthday I got exhaust pipes and we fitted them together. And I do, like, this is the thing, I remember, like, my dad and I were working on it, and I didn't say to him at the time, but it was like the first time really that we'd done anything as a father and son, and it sat with me. Yeah, that bike, yeah, we worked on it, and then my dad, the 125 I'd learned on, he went and he passed his test, and so we used to go out on a Sunday afternoon. We used to go up the Antrim Coast Road, so I'd have the big bike with my mum on the back and my dad following the 125, and it was great. I loved that. I mean, it was that's what families should have been doing on Sundays instead of going to church, you know. But I genuinely thought that, yeah, this is it. This is something that now this is going to be what we do from now on. I really thought that my dad, he would have kept his bikes and we would have done stuff together as father and son. You know, I had hopes that we'd go like touring together and things. But I think he had a couple of close scares. He didn't like going around corners, especially at slow speed. And I think he had dropped a couple, and just destroyed his confidence. There was soldiers everywhere, patrolling around. I mean, they always looked really serious and intense. I mean, now when you look back, they were just on edge constantly, because every corner they turned, it could have been a sniper's bullet or a bomb hidden in a bag of rubbish, ready to explode. But I remember looking at these soldiers and thinking, yeah, you look the business, mate. Yeah, so I wanted to be like that. So I joined the army, in the late 90s, and left Northern Ireland. It was part of the Household Division, Household Cavalry. I remember I just fitted right into the soldiering. I remember getting at Guards Depot at Purbright, marching out to get the best recruit, the Guards Platoon Best Recruit Award. I suppose that would probably be my proudest achievement. Parents came to watch and everything like that. barracks, anyone that's served in the army, it's like trying to have a card in army barracks. It's like you may as well have not bothered, because nowhere to park. But they allowed motorcycles, because you could park them under, I remember the QM's story, you could park it under this covered part. So I bought a what was it, Honda Hornet 600. That was a good bike, actually. Yeah, I remember that. And again, the loner in me, you know, whereas at the weekends all the squaddies who were in barracks, they just went on the piss downtown. You know, I was on my bike, I was just going off, you know, places. I used to stay out overnight. I used to take my army sleeping bag and my roll mat and my poncho and just go off, find a lane somewhere, go up there, put my poncho up, lie there, and have a couple of beers and sleep by my bike. You know, yeah, I just like being by myself a lot of the time. That's probably why now I do a lot of wild camping and things. I just enjoy it. Have I ever had an accident? Yeah. So the only sort of real accident I had, which was lucky, if you can say an accident's ever lucky, I was on the 125, that Virago, and where I was working at the time in a little kitchen sort of showroom place while I was waiting to join the army at the time. I was riding back from work and it was dark. It was about 5:30 in the evening. It was winter, it was dark, it was wet. I remember I'd just come off this roundabout and was heading down this road. There was a car just ahead of me waiting to turn right, and I saw as a woman in a little hatchback, and I thought, she's seen me, and I just started opening up, and as I opened up she pulled out and I skidded, impacted with her front wheel and went down. And I remember lying there, and she got out, and I remember her saying, "It's okay, I'm a nurse." I was just thinking, wow, how lucky. But I wasn't badly hurt. I think I might have jarred my shoulder, but in those days you never claimed or anything. You just, her insurance fixed up the bike, and I got on it again, and but that was a big lesson to learn, actually, because I remember thinking, if you think they see you, they don't see you. And you think things like, you learn things like, when that happens, you make sure you get eye contact, and if you haven't, you give the handlebars a little jiggle, and the lights flickering, it tends to catch their attention. Stuff like that. You do learn a lot as you go along. I nearly came unstuck really badly, actually. It was while I was in the army, and I was on my Honda, the Hornet. So I used to, when I had a girl who lived up in, where's she? Northamptonshire, about 100 miles away from the army barracks. So I used to go up there on a Friday afternoon after we knocked off, and then come back in the early hours of Monday morning to be back in time for first parade at 8 o'clock. So I was belting down the M1 motorway in the outside lane. Must have been 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was wet. It was, you know, it was dark. It was cold. I was monging it because I wasn't really concentrating. I was thinking about another week of work, and the traffic was all moving at 70, and I was behind this car, and all of a sudden, this car slammed on its brakes, and I went, whoa! So of course, what do? You lock up the brakes, and I felt the bike starting to skid, the back wheel going, and I thought, I'm not going to make this. I'm going straight into this car in front. It's like the time. It is literally. I know it sounds cliched, but you see, like, time just slow down, and I'd only a few meters. And I made the decision, or I don't even know if I made the decision, just instinct to avoid it. I leant to the left. Luckily there's nothing coming up the inside lane. Leant to the left, went up the inside lane, and as I went, just cleared the car in front, my right boot clipped the bumper, and I remember thinking, oh no, they're going to get my reg and put a claim in against any damage to their bumper. And then the next thing, I heard this almighty crash, and I glanced over my shoulder, and what I hadn't realised, there would have been a van, like a transit van, had been right up behind me, and it smashed into the car in front of me because he wasn't able to brake in time. And I rode back to barracks like with this, like my bum twitch. I was shaking. But that was another lesson learned, as in, don't follow so close, and also don't sit in the outside lane. I was lucky. Yeah, then. People go, they're dangerous. Well, they're as dangerous as you make them. They're as dangerous as you ride. Yeah, you can't actually predict, or you can't control what every other car driver or road user does, but you can control your own speed. You can control how much distance you leave in the car in front. You know, you can control how well maintained your bikes are, how sharp your brakes are, things like that. So yeah, it may be dangerous, but it's you can control a lot of things that a lot of people don't realise. No, I'm not obsessed with Harley Davidsons. I know I'm sat here in a garage surrounded by 3 of them. I've never had a Harley before. I've always been into cruisers. Cruisers are naked bikes. I've never been into sports bikes. I think it's probably just sort of being a bit of a loner makes you a bit of an individual. I learned that at school because I spent so long trying to fit in, and you just never fit in. Even if you save up and you buy like the latest t-shirt or the latest tracksuit or whatever, by the time you've actually got it, it's out of date, and it's like a massive come down. And it's only like when I got older I realised actually it's a lot easier and a lot more fun to be an individual. I think that's why I like the cruisers, because they are all individual. I mean, if you look at my Dyna and my Sportster that I've got at the minute, they're like 2 different bikes. One's got like the sort of screen and the fairing on it, and the other's totally open and naked with the tassels from the handlebars and things. I just like being different on them. Whereas sports bikes, I find you can tell the age of a sports bike because every year they update the fairing or change the headlights or do something to it. So last year's model, you ride it for 6 months and suddenly it looks out of date because they want you to buy the new one. Whereas like a cruiser, okay, they update little things, but nobody really cares. And actually, a lot of people go out of their way to have the older cruisers because they got more character. And also, where I grew up, everybody was into road racing because you had Joey Dunlops and Robert Dunlops and Northwest 200. So there was like loads of sports bikes everywhere. Everybody was into race replicas. And again, like being the rebellious sort of loner type individual, I suppose that made me, it appealed to me more to have cruisers. Whether you're riding a Harley, a Japanese bike, a BMW, a Yamaha R1 or a Honda Fireblade or whatever, we're all bikers. I know it doesn't happen all the time, but I wave to every biker I see, because I remember how much it resonates with me the very first time when I was paddling along making an idiot of myself all over the road with L plates on, and the guy went past on this massive sports bike. I know I've said it before. He went by on this massive sports bike and he slowed down and he gave me a thumbs up, to say, stick with it, son. And that stuck with me. And that's why I've no problem with riding with people with different styles of bikes, or I've no problem riding along at 40 or 50 mile an hour while on my 1700 or whatever it is behind a 125, because we're all bikers, you know, we are,